Hi everyone, Savannah Tree Foundation Field Manager Jake Henry here, and today we've got a really fun species we're looking at. And just for context, we are here in Forsyth Park, the north end. So the north end of Forsyth Park was actually dedicated as an arboretum, which means it's sort of a collection of lots of tree species, lots of really interesting ones. And this is a fun one we're looking at today called black walnut, or Juglans nigra. So this is actually a native species here on the eastern United States, and it's a really cool tree. It's used for a lot of different things, so hence the name. It does produce walnuts, and these are actually edible. Really flavorful, great source of food and good healthy fats. But it's also a really great timber species. So the wood of black walnut is really beautiful, really iconic, and it's used for many wood products. So it's got a lot of functional uses, but it's also a fantastic native tree as well. You can see on some of these leaves, it's a pretty big tree here in the park, so it's a little difficult to tell, but on some of those leaves up there, they're actually compound leaves. So, you know, before we've talked about the difference between simple leaves and compound leaves. So all those things that we think of as leaves on there are actually leaflets, and the whole big part is considered a leaf. One of the other important things that I wanted to talk about with black walnut today is something that's really cool and not common with a lot of tree species, and that's called allelopathy. So essentially what that term means is this tree is toxic to other plants. Now it's non-toxic to humans. As I mentioned, the walnuts are edible, they're healthy, you know, you don't have to worry about those, but it does produce a chemical that actually inhibits the growth of other plants around it. And this chemical can actually be found in the walnut husks, inside the bark, in the roots, in the leaves, pretty much in almost all parts of the tree. And essentially what it does is it kind of just sits in the soil and inhibits the growth of plants around it. Now here, you know, you may not be seeing a lot of that. Some of this effect might be seen here, where there's not really anything growing around the base of the tree. But here in a park where it's really well manicured, it's hard to see those effects. You know, the grass is mowed, it's kept pretty short, they don't plant a lot of things around it. But out in a natural area, you would see a pretty distinctive effect of almost like a curve, like nothing growing next to the tree, and as it gets further away, you'd see more growth of shrubs and trees and greenery, because that chemical actually inhibits the growth of plants directly around the tree. So it's pretty cool. It's especially true for a lot of other fruit trees. It really inhibits the growth of like apple trees around it. So it's a pretty neat sort of evolutionary strategy to help encourage the growth of this tree so it doesn't have to compete with other plants around it. So that is just kind of the one really interesting, unique thing I wanted to mention with our black walnut today. And they do have this really beautiful bark on them as well. Just kind of a scaly, platy bark here. It's kind of smooth in some sections, just really beautiful bark. And the walnuts have a really particular smell. So I mentioned that allelopathy, it actually comes from that chemical, the sort of kind of bitter smell that you get from black walnuts. So that's just the species we wanted to cover today, and I hope you enjoyed. Stay tuned for more videos. Take care.